Use promo code Chicago.
You are listening to the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Our next guest has written the book, quite literally, on the No BS Guide's powerful presentations, the ultimate no holds barred to selling anything with webinars, online media speeches, and seminars. Dustin Matthews joins us here on Get Down to Business. Dustin, welcome to the program.
I am excited, Shalom. I am excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So you have helped thousands of people convert their effective presentations into webinars, and I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is how to be effective, how to be passionate, how to really sell using those platforms. So, Dustin, you contribute on entrepreneur.com these days. I know you're sort of all over the place in sharing those secrets, and we'll certainly share how people can find your book. But, Dustin, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up becoming the expert on powerful presentations for businesses big and small.
Well, the easy answer is I failed a ton. And what's funny and unique is I really ought not even be here on the program or doing what I'm doing, because I was the guy that was afraid to actually get up and have to give presentations, and found a legal loophole when I got out of school, or when I was in school. And so it's funny now, because now I run a company that shows people how to give presentations, and it was all because I was made to do it. And quite frankly, I didn't want to do it. And once I experienced it, Shalom, my whole world changed, as many folks know, when they get up and give a presentation, or when they get up and they are a public figure. The whole world looks at you completely differently. And
that's a powerful statement. You're acknowledging, obviously, your challenges, your failures, and you've learned from them, and that certainly is fascinating to people, and everybody can relate to their challenges. But I guess I want to get to why it's important. Why is it so important to speak? I mean, there's so many people that are listening tonight, and that's the key word. They're listening. They're not out there. They're not meeting with people right now. They're not presenting to somebody that says, well, you know what, that's nice for Dustin, and that's nice for Shalom. They're on the air, but I don't need to do those things. What do you tell them?
Well, I completely agree with that statement. You don't need to do anything. But here's what I found, and I want to have a much bigger conversation than speaking or presentations, and it's this idea that everything in life is a presentation, especially if you're in business. The challenge is most people don't think of it that way. And so, if you go into a boardroom, you're thinking about what you're going to say in that boardroom. Or if you're going to get up in front of a community group or a political group, you're thinking about what's the words that you're going to say. But it's not just that. It's not about the presentation. It's what happens before and what happens afterwards. And it's, you can like it or not, but at the end of the day, people are judging you right out of the gate, even before you open your mouth. And so I just want to bring awareness to the community that everything in life is a presentation, whether you use slides or you're on the radio or you're on TV. It's just no one goes around really thinking that way.
I agree with you completely. Everybody is constantly presenting. Everybody is constantly speaking. In fact, later on in the program, we're going to talk about tips for job candidates, for people in transition. And my thought is that everybody who's in who's in the job market, they need to learn that they are going to be communicators. Every employer is expecting it, and you need to work on those communication and those presentation skills. So very, very shortly, I want to talk about how to be fearless. I want to talk about how to sort of shake that fright out of you. But Dustin, interesting question. You are the expert on presentations. You teach people. This is what you're doing. You have a company focused on helping people become better presenters. But you wrote a book. You actually wrote a physical book called The No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations. How challenging was that to actually put that passion that you're sharing with our listeners tonight and put it into words?
Well, it's always fun, trying to put your passion and trying to communicate your passion, especially if you're not speaking it. I think everybody has the ability to sell or communicate, what it is that they're passionate about. I think about dinner at the, family room table, and you can think of a couple relatives that get animated and passionate about a subject they talk about. And so putting it in a book was fun and a challenge. I say that it was fun because oftentimes I just spoke it. And so I know there are writers out there that they just have that gift where they can sit down at the typewriter or computer and just crank out words. But, me as a presenter, one who speaks a lot, what I did was I actually just put my presentation together. I recorded it, and that became the foundation for the book. And so obviously there's a benefit to understanding how to speak and how to communicate, because it can translate into so many different media out there, and you can actually multiply your efforts a whole lot quicker.
That's awesome. Great advice. So you've been working with companies big and small. You've been working with professionals behind the companies. Give us some examples of problems that you've helped to solve, meaning the presentations that just weren't being done effectively, where you and your team have been able to come in and teach the people behind the presentation how to do a more effective job.
Absolutely. I'll go general so everyone benefits, and then I'll get into some couple real-world examples. So the biggest thing I see most people do when they give a presentation, the biggest mistake I see them make, is they don't have some sort of call to action at the end. And what I mean by that is either selling something, generating an appointment, generating a lead, or just telling people to go to whatever. Maybe you have a LinkedIn or you have a Facebook page. And so oftentimes people are afraid to go for the ask. And I see the biggest challenge in life is, like, if you don't act, and all of us know this at the highest level, if without action, nothing gets done in life, especially in the business world. And so if you don't start training your audience, the people you're in front of, to do something, not just ponder an idea and say, hey, get to it when you get to it, but go and do something now in this moment. And obviously salespeople get it because they're asking for the sale. But let's say you're in the corporate world where you can't sell or ask for money right there because you got to go through gatekeepers and all that. The biggest thing that you ought to be thinking about is, what is the next action I want them to take so that I can get my end game. And so that's sort of the big general one that I want really people to think about, is before you even open your mouth, like, what action do you want people to take? What's the end game? And then specifically, you asked for some specifics here. I take one of my favorite ones is Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, because I like to use this as an example, because his world, infomercials, is a giant presentation. It just happens to be on TV. And so we worked with him and helped him translate his knowledge of this infomercial and how to create something that really gets people into action, but now translate it to the stage, because there are nuances when you go from TV or radio or to the stage. And so we helped him do that, and he's generated seven figures, built his speaking empire by doing this idea of putting together a presentation and building a business around it.
Wow. So again, we're chatting with Dustin Matthews, the expert behind the power of presentations for your business. And Dustin, an example like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. I know you've also been on a guest on his podcast on Sharkpreneur. So you've been sharing this advice right and left, and I could tell you are quite passionate about it. So we've got about 2 minutes remaining, and I want to make sure we get some tips out. You talked about a call to action. Let's make sure we get a call to action for our listeners. How can somebody who's listening to this program, somebody who might not be so comfortable today about public speaking, how can they become fearless? How can they break out of that cycle? And regardless of what line of business they're in or what they do, how can they put this into practice tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. So about getting fearless, it's all in the research. Most people, when they speak, they're running their business or they're doing their thing. And so at the end of the day, they're like, oh, crap, I've got a business presentation I got to give tomorrow. And so they stay up till 2 a.m. They're racking their brain, and they're in fear because they're afraid to give that presentation because they haven't prepared. So number one is preparation and research. Also, two, if you get to know who's there in the audience, do your research ahead of time. Ask the promoter if you can in that situation, or if you can leverage the power of social media. Having an awareness of who's there makes you feel more comfortable. I see it time and time again. And even the age-old trick of shaking people's hands if you're in that sort of forum and getting them to know you before you talk is absolutely mission critical. It puts you at ease. It helps you see people like, hey, you're just here to communicate and deliver value. So those would be my three biggest tips on how do you become fearless in giving your presentation.
All right. Great advice from our friend Dustin Matthews here in Get Down to Business this evening. Dustin's written a brand new best-selling book, The No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations, the ultimate no-holds-barred plan to selling anything with webinars, online media speeches, and seminars. And you are helping so many people become more influential, helping people present and bring the audience to them instead of traveling. Quite impressive. Dustin, I want to make sure our listeners can find your book and find you. Where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It made it so easy. It's at nobspresentations.com. The book is there. So if you like Amazon, you like Barnes & Noble, or whatever bookstore that you shop at, you can find a link on there. And make sure you get the valuable resources that are there. So more than a book that will change your life, this is a thing that will help you with tools and resources to get that word out, get your message out. And then finally, if you're interested in what we're up to at speakingempire.com, helping entrepreneurs and business owners create powerful messages, check us out at speakingempire.com.
Fantastic, Dustin. We appreciate your time joining us here on Get Down to Business. We'll be sure to follow your presentations and have you back on the program real soon. We've got more tips, advice, and information for all of our listeners. We're powered by our good friends at Tandem HR. Check out our website, tandemhr.com. And Chicago, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
An AM 560.